everybody, thank you so much for joining me. I am Jason Brookman from Jason Brookman Photography, and I'm coming straight at you from Austin, Texas. Today we're going to talk about an amazing lens. If you saw my last video, you saw that I unboxed the 56mm 1.2. And guess what I got for you? I've got a review of the 56mm 1.2. This is an amazing lens. So let's just get straight into it. The build quality, pretty solid construction. The lens hood is nothing to write home to mom about. But it's all right. It's all right. It does the job. It does the job right. It's a lens hood. Overall metal construction, pretty solid. It's not too heavy, especially when it's on the camera. It's actually, it's has a little bit of a rumble in there, but it is an older lens, but overall it's pretty solid. It's not weather resistant, which is kind of a downside, but how often are you in a snowstorm, doing portraits? And this is mainly a portrait lens. Although you can use it for street. I did use this for street when I first got it because it was, I went out and just shot with it before I even had, any subject. So I went and did some street with it, and believe it or not, actually, it was pretty awesome. And I'll just put a couple of actual shots that I did. I went to Georgetown out here in Texas and shot around with it, and that was pretty fun. So I'll throw some of those in there real quick. So form factor, as far as size, that's really what I want to talk about is size. So compared to the 85, which is really large, and the 90mm, which is really large, size, it's hefty, but it's not too big. I mean, it's like, this is like the sweet spot of portrait lenses. Look at that. I mean, add the form factor of the XT3. I like the size of the grip, and so it's just not too big. It's just like, it's perfect. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room with regards to the 56mm 1.2, and that is the autofocus. Obviously, you've heard from all kinds of other people that the autofocus leaves something to be desired, and that is absolutely true. Just make sure when you're using this that you set up your shots. You can mitigate some of the issues that you have inside of the camera and just try to do as much setting up the shot as possible. If you have a model coming towards you, walking towards you, make sure you set up, you get that focus before they start walking because it's not going to track them, and make sure you are on continuous focus. The overall autofocus is pretty slow. Okay, let's talk about the image quality. Whew. I mean, that's what this is all about. Image quality is very sharp. It has amazing character. There's something magical about this lens. You've always heard about it in all these different, everyone talks about the magic of this lens when it comes to portraits, when it comes to the separation, the compression, the bokeh, just how it renders photos. It is absolutely true. You don't really realize until you put it on your camera and you go out and shoot with it how magical that lens is. And that's what I've experienced with this. When I first went out with it, it was like, whoa, wow, this thing is amazing. that unboxing, I've basically gone in tandem with this lens and the 23mm, just because I wanted to be able to, I did a fashion shoot, so I wanted to be able to have full body shots, but still be able to get closer to my subjects. If I had my druthers, I would, if I had enough space, I'd be using this thing. And if I didn't have to worry about getting, outfits, the full outfit in, or for, the full body shots, then I'd be using this thing all the time. So that's one thing you need to consider when considering focal length. Do you need to get full body shots? Do you need to get half shots? It's a fashion shoot. In this case, I needed to focus on the clothing that they were wearing, so I needed to get head to toe shots. The bokeh on this thing. The Bokelicious bokeh is amazing. I love the bokeh. I love the creaminess. I love the autofocus stuff. I love me some Bokelicious bokeh. And this is the Bokeh King. I haven't tried the 50mm 1.0 yet. I don't know. I guess there's an argument to be made for that guy, but who's got another $1,000, or I don't know how much that cost now, $1,500 for that, I don't have the 90mm. When I get my hands on that, I'll be doing a video on that. Probably the most challenging aspect of this lens is the autofocus. Besides that, there's only one other thing that is challenging. The clickies. The clickies, or the aperture ring, is just a little bit soft. It's soft. Why don't you make it a little high? I mean, why is this thing so soft, huh? You gotta make this thing soft. So it's kind of easy to hit, and when you're at 1.2 and you shoot and you're like, hey, that's great, and then you flick it and all of a sudden you're at 2.8. I will go as far as to say this is probably the best portrait lens that I have. I will probably use this thing until it falls off of my camera. This is my go-to portrait lens. Final thoughts. Awesome lens. If you have the money and you want to commit to having the perfect portrait lens, or the almost perfect, there is no perfect lens, right? This thing is amazing. I've heard a lot of good things about that 90mm. I know a lot of people like to do portraits with the 50-140. If you come from DSLRs like me, you like the 70-200, it's a great lens to do portraits, and man, does it render amazing bokeh, amazing photos, and just the compression is just out of this world. So 50-140 is a great portrait lens. But if you like primes, this thing is magical. It's really magical. So autofocus, yeah. Aperture ring, yeah. Image quality, form factor, bokeh, overall. So those are my final thoughts, guys. If you have any questions, comments, feelings, thoughts, concerns, reprimands, whatever you got, why don't you do that in the section below, and like and subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.